Hello, my name is Marissa Chappelle, and I'm here to talk to you about how using emotionally compelling music as therapy to patients with traumatic brain injury could increase their chances of recovery. Ever since I was a little girl, I have been in love with music. It is a universal language, and I have always been amazed at how it connects people. As Plato said, music is moral law. It gives soul to the universe, flight to the mind, wings to the imagination, and charm to life and everything. I have been playing classical piano since I was 5 years old, and I was able to experience firsthand how playing music unites people in my family. I also have a passion for neuroscience and a deep connection to the human brain. When I was 11 years old, my grandmother on my mother's side had a terrible stroke. The stroke hospitalized her, and she suffered trauma to the brain and severe memory loss. After her first stroke, about a year later, she had another stroke, which only damaged her brain more. After her second stroke, my grandmother was never the same. She didn't recognize things that she used to love, and she was apathetic and disinterested in her surroundings. It got to a point where she couldn't even recognize her own family, and she lost some big parts of her that made her the person that she was before her stroke. The person I loved and knew as my grandmother, my Nan. That part of her was lost. It was painful to have to watch my grandma slowly deteriorate, and I didn't want anyone to have to go through the pain of watching a loved one's physical and mental state worsen. So I came up with a solution. Music is a big part of our culture and many other cultures around the world. You can't go a day without hearing music, whether it be on the radio in the car, through headphones, or through another source. With the technology surrounding us in our worlds today, this also allows music to surround us constantly, causing it to become a bigger part of our lives than we truly realize. When we listen to music, each part of your brain has a function when it comes to receiving musical information and interpreting and analyzing rhythms. The parietal lobe, as seen in yellow on this slide, helps us interpret rhythms and specific methodical beats and patterns in music. The frontal lobe, seen in blue, controls motor skills and is responsible for physical responses to music. It's what causes us to tap our feet to a song, or bob our head, or even dance. The hypothalamus, seen in white, is responsible for the emotional reactions we have towards certain songs, because it's responsible for releasing chemicals into our brain that make us feel certain ways. Listening to music triggers these chemicals to be released and increases function of the hypothalamus. The occipital lobe, seen in purple, is associated with visual media, but listening to music can trigger reactions in the occipital lobe, even though we're not seeing anything, just hearing. The temporal lobe, seen in green, is known for memory, language, and speech, and it contains the auditory cortex, which interprets lyrics, and the prefrontal cortex, seen in red, stores memories and allows us to remember lyrics and tunes that are interpreted. Traumatic brain injury is a serious issue surrounding the medical world today. In the US alone, 1.7 million people are affected by traumatic brain injury annually, and that number is continuously rising. 250,000 of those hospitalized are in the hospital for periods of time longer than 7 days, and 52,000 of those long-term visits die. Brain injuries are unique to each case, and this makes recovery time and recovery chances unpredictable. Many patients do not recover quickly, if they recover at all. But how do we increase the chances of recovery? I think that music could stimulate the brain enough to increase brain function and promote the growth and regeneration of neurological pathways. As we saw in the music in our brain slide, music affects basically every part of our brain. If we were to start music therapy in patients with TBI and have them listen to personalized soundtracks full of music that they are emotionally connected to, we might be able to increase brain function enough to allow better healing. The emotionally stimulating music would make the patient happy, resulting in an increase in the level of endorphins released, and these endorphins would promote dendrite growth and neurological regeneration. When we're happy, the hypothalamus releases three main chemicals, along with various endorphins. The three chemicals are dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These endorphins are released when we're happy, are the same endorphins that are released when the brain is learning. These specific endorphins released promote dendrite growth, which is what happens when we learn, which promotes new neural pathways to be created. More neural pathways means better cognition, which means higher brain function. And when regarding patients with TBI, higher brain function is the main goal. Look at this chart. The bright red color indicates higher activity and brain function in that area of the brain. The top row, row A, are MRI scans of different children who are musically trained and taking executive functioning tests. And the bottom row, row B, are 3 MRI scans of children taking the same test who are not musically trained. Executive functioning tests are basic tests that study the organizational, planning, and memory skills of children. These MRI scans were taken while the students were taking the tests, and as you can see, the top row of musically trained children has higher cognition and better brain function overall. That was not the only study performed to show how music has an impact on the brain. The Mozart effect is a theory based off of a study that shows that after listening to Mozart's Sonata in D, Opus K448 for 10 minutes, the mean spatial IQ scores of human subjects were 8 and 9 points higher than the scores of people listening to silence or relaxation instructions. A study conducted at McGill University also shows that when using PET scanning to monitor cerebral blood flow changes related to the affective responses to music, the study shows that the music may recruit mechanisms similar to those associated with specific pleasant or unpleasant feelings. There are many organizations that study the effect of music on the brain too. The organization Music and Memory focuses on the effects of music therapy on elderly patients suffering from dementia. The music therapy has allowed memories from the deepest parts of patients' brains to be accessed, memories that were previously hidden. Music opens up the brains of dementia patients, and each patient's individualized music therapy has allowed them to converse, socialize, and stay present. There was a man named Henry who was 87 years old. When he was young, he loved music and was always singing. Henry has lived in assisted living for the past 10 years of his life, and before he received music therapy, he was not mobile and he was mute. He never talked, hardly ever moved, and was extremely unresponsive. He sat, like you see in the picture on the left, for 10 years, not moving, not responsive, not talking, nothing. The only times he moved were for bath and eating. Then, after listening to a playlist specialized for Henry, filled with music that he loved when he was a child and in his young adult years, he was back to being his old self. He was no longer mute, and instead he was singing aloud to the rest of the nursing home, and he was mobile, moving his arms and dancing to the best of his abilities. This is Henry after music therapy. As you can see in the column on the right in the photos, he is awake, alert, and his eyes are wide open. He's able to answer questions with specific answers, and he loves listening to his music. His favorite song is I'll Be Home for Christmas. Henry was asked by one of his nurses in the nursing homes, "What does music do for you?" And he responded with a lively answer, "It gives me the power of love, romance. I figure right now the world needs to come into music and singing. You've got beautiful music here, beautiful, lovely. I feel the band of love and dreams." And if that answer coming from a normally unresponsive dementia patient isn't amazing, I don't know what is. Music clearly has a direct impact on the human brain. Listening to music or learning to play an instrument promotes dendrite growth and creation of neurological pathways and increases cognition, and using emotionally compelling music to cause endorphin releases that promote dendrite growth, and also using music therapy to help wake up the brain, could all help significantly in the healing process of patients with traumatic brain injury. If, when a patient was diagnosed with TBI, protocol measures were taken to acquire music that is emotionally compelling to that specific patient, hospitals would be able to quickly initiate the treatment process along with music therapy. After the patient's physical condition was stabilized, immediate start of music therapy provides the potential for earlier recovery of neural connections. The patient would not transfer to a professional rehabilitation facility until days, weeks, or even months after the initial injury. Then it might be too late, because there is an introduced possibility of necrosis. The immediate initiation of music therapy would provide potential for early recovery of neural connections, possibly increasing brain function in patients, providing early recovery of neurological pathways, which could result in the full recovery from the injury, and decrease the chances of necrosis. The earlier the therapy is started, the better chances are of recovery. As the therapy is completely non-invasive, it also does not require surgery, practically costless, as it does not require the installation of any new technology, just headphones and an iPod, or any other way to play music in hospital rooms, such as speakers or previously installed televisions. And the low cost of therapy also keeps from increasing the already existing financial stresses in the medical world today. It is measurable through MRI scans or electroencephalography testing. And finally, it doesn't require patient participation, because the patient does not need to be physically conscious to listen to music or receive auditory information. Imagine all the possibilities that this introduces. Personalized music therapy may cause an emotional effect that results in the release of healing endorphins that allow new neural pathways to be created. and these neural pathways could promote recovery in patients with TBI. If current methods of music therapy are able to unlock the brains of patients with severe memory loss, imagine what the immediate initiation of music therapy in patients with TBI could do. I would like to thank the Academy for allowing me to make this presentation, and I hope that you can see the potential that music therapy has regarding the problem of traumatic brain injury. We could help heal the world. Thank you.